All right, everyone, please join me in welcoming our next guest, also coming from Washington, D.C. Shannon McGahn is the Chief Advocacy Officer at the National Association of Realtors. In that role, she is responsible for federal legislative and political affairs, as well as the political representative teams. Essentially, she is one of the most influential voices in all of Washington, D.C., so we are certainly fortunate to have her here with us today. Prior to joining NAR, McGann served in a variety of roles throughout the capital area, including staff director for the Financial Services Committee, counselor to the United States Treasury Secretary, as well as communications roles for 3 separate members of Congress. So no small degree of qualifications here. Shannon, thank you as always for being with us today.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me. I'm excited to join you all.
All right, well, I know we are short on time and there's so much that we'd love to be able to cover. But for starters, I know what's happening out in Washington, D.C. is really first and foremost in the minds of so many. Can you take a moment to discuss from NAR's perspective your thoughts on what's going on?
Oh, sure. Well, Ryan, I think we're all still in disbelief and disgusted at what we witnessed last week. I know you and I both spent time on Capitol Hill. I was there for nearly 20 years, working not just in the House office buildings, but also in the Capitol itself. And you know, every office has a radio alarm system that tells you what to do in the event of an incident. And you hear those beepers go off and your heart doesn't just skip a beat, it skips 10 beats. So I can only imagine how terrifying it was for people who were there and sheltering in place. And no, I serve on the board of the Capitol Historical Society, so I can maintain that connection. It's such a special building. And, you know, we've spent a lot of time there, and our members have spent time there during our mid-year meetings and have that connection as well. So it just felt like you were watching someone break into your home and there was nothing that you can do. So our President Charlie Oppler, he said the night of the attack that NAR stands with our democracy and our nation's centuries-old observance of peaceful protests and the peaceful transfer of power. And what happened that day at the U.S. Capitol was an assault on both. So we also had earlier this week, the RPAC Board of Trustees met and is temporarily pausing federal political disbursements while NAR continues to monitor the events in Washington and to ensure that our political participation most closely represents the will of our realtor members and the best interests of American real estate. So this is something that monitoring very closely, have a pause right now, and still in your constant contact with our friends and family on Capitol Hill, and as they go forward with this important week.
Shannon, thank you for that, and certainly our thoughts are with all of you out there in Washington, D.C., and hoping that that you remain safe, and we'll continue to be in touch with you and your team moving forward. And with that, I did want to say and give a shout out to your entire team, who has been so responsive throughout this past, especially throughout this past 12 months, dealing with some of the challenges, especially around COVID, that have come into play. And so just taking a moment to look back at 2020, we have a lot of new faces joining us today, virtually, of course, in what typically is an in-person meeting. We have moved this, as you know, to a virtual meeting, clearly, but we're excited to share with some of our members about the importance of the Realtor voice and all that you're able to do, not just in Washington, D.C., but when we all join together in Sacramento, as well as locally, to advocate on behalf of our industry.
Absolutely. And I will be candid and honest here. I can't say that we started 2020's legislative agenda and priorities with COVID response at the top of the list. This time last year, that was not something that we were expecting, but we in advocacy view politics like the weather. You can't control it, but our job is to be prepared for it. And we were prepared to fight to secure realtors in many of these unprecedented pieces of legislation. There are 3 key components to the COVID bills that opened up these unprecedented benefits, and that is including self-employed, independent contractors, and sole proprietors. So with these 3 groups covered, you had a wide swath of our members included in these very important programs. That included the pandemic unemployment assistance, the Paycheck Protection Program, the economic injury disaster assistance loans, and paid sick and family leave. We just did Dr. Lawrence Yoon and his amazing team have been doing regular surveys, and one of the recent surveys shows that 1 in 5 members applied for a PPP loan. So it's clear these programs were critical during this time. So there were 5 of these major relief bills that were passed between March and December, and they totaled nearly $4 trillion. As part of that, we sent more than 100 letters to congressional leadership, working the phones, email. Obviously didn't have the ability to go room to room in the House office buildings, but we did go Zoom to Zoom in meetings to protect our members and make sure that they were members of Congress were getting accurate, up-to-date information on the real estate sector and how consumers are being impacted as well. And I think because of this help, the residential real estate market remained steady for the American economy, and home prices held steady, and many other sectors, unfortunately, have not had that ability. In addition, the essential services designations were something that was a very early activity. So NAR worked with all of our state associations to ensure that on a state-by-state basis that the essential services designations were happening, working with AEs and keeping the transactions moving during those lockdowns. And Joe Ventrone on our team, who has announced that he was retiring at the end of last year. I still get more texts from him now than I did when he was officially on board. So I don't know how retirement is being handled for him, but he and his team worked with the agencies and the Department of Homeland Security on those essential services designations as well. But those are handled actually on a state-by-state basis, and so those engagement with the AEs was very important. There are other issues that were coming up throughout COVID that we had been focused on for years, including our efforts to expand broadband access. That became more of a reality with $6 billion in new funding that was signed into law in December. And also, just before the clock struck midnight and at the end of 2020, $25 billion in rental assistance made it into law, along with the additional stimulus checks and the expansions of the small business rescue programs. So these were all very important victories, ones that we wish we didn't have to focus on over the last year, but we were prepared, and we're continuing to educate Capitol Hill and all policymakers that real estate stands strong to help lead the economic recovery.
Well, Shannon, I tell you what, if this was taking place in person, you would have absolutely walked out to a standing ovation. So thank you, and congratulations with all that you've been able to accomplish.
Ryan, well, I will come to San Diego and visit you whenever we're able to travel again. Do not worry.
Absolutely. Love to have you. Well, looking forward to 2021. Can you let our folks know what is on the agenda? What can we expect to see? And of course, is there anything they should be aware of, some potential call for actions, and why those might be important for our members to be involved with?
Oh, absolutely. So 2021 is going to be another very big year. We're looking at a new COVID bill and further responses there, including the president-elect's COVID relief plan. So we believe that will total trillions of dollars. Much of the current aid starts to run out in March. So this is needed to continue it throughout the spring. Expecting more direct checks, state and local funding, which was not included in the last round. So that's new. Funds for vaccine distribution for schools and police officers and health workers. Also looking for extended unemployment insurance and rental assistance. The $25 billion in the last bill was a very good start, but with the extension of eviction moratoriums, and we're expecting that $25 billion will be a good start, but won't be the end of it. So we're also expecting to see modifications for the small business assistance programs and ensure more aid for minority-owned businesses. One other area that we would like to see addressed is SALT. A repeal was included in the House passed version of the COVID relief bill, the HEROES Act last year. And now with Democrats in further control, I think that there could be some real movement on it. It's also the president-elect has the ability to move quickly on packages using the budget reconciliation process. I think reconciliation is like the only 6-syllable word I know, but that means that you can move things through with a simple majority in the Senate. So it's a budget process that requires just a simple majority instead of the 60-vote threshold. That's a process that was used for the Affordable Care Act and for the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. So it's a procedural tool that many presidents use, and that is a potential for the ability to move things like a COVID response. Other areas that we're focusing on in 2021 include housing availability and affordability. So these include things like the rental assistance implementation, but also in the tax issues, and working with lawmakers on Capitol Hill on a package of bills that would help more millennial, more minority home buyers have access to the American dream. Another issue that came up on the campaign trail is the $15,000 first-time home buyer tax credit, which is something else that we can work on Capitol Hill to help secure. In addition, an issue that's come up quite a bit is 1031 like-kind exchange, and which is a critical program to ensure that the development and the tax program is fair for redevelopment. This is something that's part of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. It has been mentioned as potentially being used to eliminate parts of it to pay for other programs. But the conversations that we have with lawmakers feel very confident. They understand that it's a program that helps many mom and pop investors. It helps community development, and it protects that housing investment. But we'll continue to make the case on commercial real estate and the need to protect 1031 like-kind exchange. Other areas that we know are kind of constants that we're focused on are fair housing initiatives, partnering with lawmakers to support more equitable public policy and promoting NAR's ACT program, and ensuring that lawmakers understand that NAR, that the federal government has no greater partner in enforcing fair housing law than working with realtors. So this is something that we've been communicating consistently throughout the years, but will continue to do so in 2021. And then finally, we have some of those issues that are, they seem like our evergreen issues, things like flood insurance program that is consistently having some short-term extensions. We were able to secure a long-term, or I should say longer-term extension with a full fiscal year, full calendar year, from September 30th of 2020 to September 30th of 2021. We'll continue to work with those relevant lawmakers and those committees to get a longer term reauthorization of that program, in addition to infrastructure and transportation programs, which have long been seen as bipartisan projects that can include things like further access to broadband support. So those are top priorities for us going into 2021, and we expect to be able to work with a bipartisan group of lawmakers on that as well. So we'll be busy, and we would just ask that you all continue to engage with your association and to engage with the National Association so that we can tell your story and use the exact examples that you're facing in your community as we're talking to federal lawmakers.
Shannon, that was fantastic. Thank you. That was quite a bit to pack into just a few minutes here. And so really grateful that you could join us, and thank you for that update. I know there will be more to come. We always appreciate, again, the communications that we're seeing coming out of your office, keeping our members, keeping us informed and ready to be engaged when called upon. So thank you for your time today. And again, please stay safe. Our best wishes to all of you at NAR in the Washington, D.C. office.
Thank you, Ryan. Looking forward to hopefully being able to see you later this year.
That would be fantastic. Thank you again, Shannon.
Thank you.